Okay, wow, here we are. Episode number 120 of the Cozy Corner of Cinema. Being recorded on Monday, July 15th, 2024 at 5:35 p.m. And if you're listening with headphones, you might hear a background noise. And actually, if you're listening loud enough, you may hear a background noise. I've got a fan about 4 feet away, 3 or 4 feet away, blowing directly on me because it is a muggy day out. We are in the midst of summer, and in the midst of summer, we have many summer films on our mind, summer literature. We think of the great summer films like, of course, The Endless Summer comes to mind. It's a wonderful documentary. Of course, Wake and Fright, the brilliant Australian film as well. And actually, keeping in Australia, you can even watch Walkabout, the great Nicholas Roeg film. It's just wonderful, man. It's a muggy time of the year. It can be a bit egregious at times, you know. I'm far more of a winter person, but with that said, I do enjoy all of the seasons. They all have their advantages and disadvantages, and it's been raining out actually quite a bit today. A real cloudy overcast, putting a gray kind of monotone color around the whole world, or at least the area, I should say. And that's great. It gives us the feeling, a certain feeling of coziness, of being inside, staying inside, catching up on literature, on cinema, getting the work done, making sure we are being attentive to our needs, working on our screenplays, our novels, our films, our paintings, anything of the sort that you feel like you must devote the time to, because every day is so precious and every minute is so precious that it's of the utmost importance to utilize every opportunity to the fullest extent to get the job done. And it's just a wonderful time to be alive. No matter how hot the day is, though, I gotta have coffee, man. I love coffee in the summer. I love ice cream in the winter, and vice versa. They're just, coffee in and of itself is such a cozy treat to have. Coffee or tea. It's just so wonderful, man. It's just, I love recording this with a nice cup of coffee. Although with the fan blowing on it, it's getting colder a lot sooner, so I got to kind of keep on top of that. I'm not a big fan of cold coffee, but a lot of people are, so if that's the case, then you've already kind of won at both extents there, man. But yeah, it's July. We are reflecting, we're continuing to reflect on the year at hand, on what we've achieved and what we want to achieve. We are setting our goals and hopefully following through with our goals, watching films, reading literature, pursuing our artistic endeavors that the contextual point of the year allows us to. So what I said before is that we're listening to certain music that gives us that kind of summer feeling, watching certain films, perhaps reading certain literature. It's great to get into the mindset to kind of keep our goals moving forward, man. Because now next thing you know, the fall's going to be here, and winter's going to be here, and then spring, and we'll be right back to summer all over again. It's just, people talk about time moving so fast, and it can certainly feel that way. But it's important not to take for granted where you're at right now. Everybody's crazy as hell talking about, trying to get to that Friday, trying to get to the end of the work week so they can, go on the weekend and do nothing, man. And I say every day is great, man. I say have that Friday mentality 7 days out of the week, because every day is just so great. And if you rush it, next month I want to do this, and then next year I want to do this. In a couple years, it's like next thing you know, you're like, well, where'd all the time go? It's like, man, I tell you where the time went. It was right there the whole time, but you weren't, you weren't appreciative of it. Every day is such a gift. We must utilize that gift and really kind of be appreciative of where we are at. And damn it, I already feel this coffee cooling as it's in my hand. Wow, that is cool, man. That's cool. It's funny. I opened up Instagram today, and I see a post about today being Irene Jacobs' birthday, and I thought that was a very cool kind of event because it happened to remind me of having just recently watched the final film from Krzysztof Kieślowski, the great filmmaker's has many, many great films under his belt, but I had finally seen Three Colors Red, which was a big film of his that I, for whatever reason, had not seen until this past week. And it's bizarre. I'd seen Three Colors Blue years ago, and of course that's a wonderful film with Juliette Binoche. And then I saw Three Colors White not too long after with Julie Delpy, which is an interesting film. I want to rewatch it. It's one that didn't totally stick with me. It's also a different kind of film for sure. And I finally watched Three Colors Red, starring Irene Jacob, and one of my favorites, Jean-Louis Trintignant, whose name I probably have been saying incorrectly for years. And what a wonderful film this is. Wonderful end to not the trilogy, not just the trilogy, but a wonderful farewell to already a brilliant filmmaker. Because I was reading earlier this week the passing of actor Jerzy Stuhr, S-T-U-H-R, Stuhr? I don't know if I said that correctly or not. The star of one of Kieślowski's best films, Camera Buff, from 1979. A wonderful film about a man who, after the birth of his child, he starts to become obsessed with filming everything, and it's a lighter film than comparing to some of Kieślowski's other more weightier kind of work. But I also think it's one of his strongest films. So it's a really, really excellent film that would go great actually with something like David Holzman's Diary. That film being far more experimental and far more perhaps transgressive, if you will. But I think both of them complement each other. In fact, you have this protagonist with the camera itself being closely tied to the protagonist. I would recommend that for sure. It's great. You hear about these going-ons, the passing of Jerzy Stuhr, and then you go, oh, I haven't seen Camera Buff, I'm going to go check that out. Or Irene Jacob's birthday, and you go, oh, my gosh, I gotta watch Three Colors Red, or maybe I'll actually Double Life of Veronique. It's another great film also by Kieślowski. So it's just wonderful, man. Wonderful, wonderful to have these films in the collective kind of conscious and people bringing it up and going, hey, if this actor just passed away, or it's this person's birthday, have you seen this film of theirs? Have you seen this film of theirs? And you go, yes, or you go, no, and you go, oh, do I want to pursue further and devote my time to watching this film? And that's up to you. And I should also say that he co-wrote the film as well, so got to give credit where credit is due. Definitely recommend Camera Buff. That was a really terrific film that I watched last year. Really cool stuff, man. Really, really cool. Kieślowski's such a wonderful filmmaker, and I've been slowly working my way through his Decalogue miniseries. I think I'm only about, I should say only, but I think I have seen the first 5 or 6. But I have not seen the films either. A short film about killing and a short film about love. So those will be watched in due time. And I think I've liked all of the Decalogue entries. Some more than others, of course, but there aren't any that I flat out disliked. The unfortunate thing is that I've spaced out watching them so much that my memory has failed me in terms of what happened when. So I am unable to give any sort of in-depth, specific kind of compliments, other than the shallow kind of, it was good, this was pretty good, oh, that was good too. So, the Criterion sale's going on sale now, man. So, keep an eye out on that if you're interested in it, and get that for half off. Hope you guys have been keeping up with these sales. Severin just had their sale this past weekend, and I picked up quite a myriad amount of titles. Some new releases, a lot of older releases, man. They had a lot of good titles that were on sale for anywhere from $5 to, gosh, like $7, $8, $9. So that was great, man. That's really cool. And I'm thinking back to the Palme D'or winners of the past, and I've mentioned many on the show before. I've talked about many, and I've been curious to kind of watch all of them. Because there are many films that win the prestigious Palme D'or award at the Cannes Film Festival. Which brings me to La Fonte from 2005, directed by Jean-Pierre Dardenne and Luc Dardenne, starring one of their frequent actors, Jeremy Renier, and another actor, Deborah Francois. And this was a great film to not know anything about, because I'm watching this film and it's a great setup. You know, it's almost like the film starts off, this young girl, Sonia, she's trying to get her stuff from her seemingly ex-boyfriend's apartment. She's outside his apartment with a crying baby. She just wants to get her stuff, and you know, he throws the stuff out at her, and she's on her way. So we're following her. She's by herself with this baby. You're like, all right, what's going on? You know, the child. You see this poster. You have this couple. You know, was one of them the child? Of course not. The child is the baby. Of course, it's a ridiculous thing. But you see that poster and you go, all right, what are we gonna do here? And we introduce the character of Bruno, played by Jeremy. And it's an introduction that lets you know right off the bat this character. This character just is, you know, he's wandering into traffic. He's asking for change. These are two characters that are really, you know, clearly have some sort of unplanned pregnancy where they're trying to get by, but they really don't have a lot of money. Things are pretty rough, and I'm not going to give away a whole lot of the film because I think part of what I love about the film so much is where it really goes to. But anyways, there's something that happens early on that really kind of kickstarts the film into motion, and from there we end up following Bruno as the primary protagonist. And what I really love about this film is anytime a film is showing you actions of a character that are reprehensible, that are horrible, but still bringing you along the way and asking you, how far are you willing to go with this character? How far can the sympathies be stretched where you are or are not on that character's side? And that's what I really like about this film, is you're watching these things happen to a character who's done something horrible. But this character life is just not on this character's side. You know, they're a victim of bad choices, of not just in this instance, but seemingly in their lives up to this point. And because we are following them the whole time, and we see these bad things happening, we go, okay, they probably deserve that, but also, I am following this character. This character the life is not on this guy's side. And this character has no humility. He's willing to do whatever it takes to kind of really perhaps turn his life around, or perhaps fall back into his old ways. You know, we don't really know for sure. And it's funny. I was like, man, who are these filmmakers, man? And I was surprised to see. I shouldn't even say surprised, because it could mean, you know, anything. You know, I could have seen some of their stuff or not seen some of their other stuff. So I'm gonna get a sip of this water right here. Throat's getting a little dry. Always want to make sure you're drinking liquids, man, hot and cold. This coffee is definitely getting cold fast, man. It's wild as all hell. But I was looking up their filmography, and I was like, what have they done that I've seen? Or what have they done that I've been familiar with? And they've actually done a couple of films that I've seen and a couple that I'm familiar with. They have their newest film, Tori and Lakita, I haven't had the opportunity to see. Well, that's not entirely true. I've had the opportunity, but I haven't seen it yet. That's a film that came out, it says 2022, but I think it released in America either earlier this year, I'm pretty sure it has, or at least late 2023. But they also did Young Ahmed, which I don't remember. I don't think I've seen this film or not. I might be getting it mixed up with something. No, I don't believe I have. But I remember that was getting talk when it came out. But two of their films I had seen was from 2014, 2 Days, One Night with Marion Cotillard. And then from 2011, The Kid with the Bike. I think both are very good films. Actually, 2 Days, One Night is, I think, a really great film, and it's interesting kind of some of the parallels between, and they have other films as well that I haven't seen, so I can't really say for sure. They've done The Promise, Rosetta, The Sun, Lorna's Silence, The Unknown Girl, Falsch. You know, I believe all of these are features. I haven't clicked on any of the pages to look at them. I'm thinking of You. But it's interesting to compare at least The Child, The Kid with the Bike, and 2 Days, One Night, because the thread that runs through these three films in particular, and perhaps their other works, follow this path remains to be seen. I'll have to see the films to obviously analyze the comparisons. Not that they should be compared, but I'm ultimately just looking at it from a surface level kind of point of view. Is you have these protagonists who are lower class kind of people. I mean, you have 2 Days, One Night where Marion Cotillard's character she was working in a factory, I believe she was. The kid with the bike, this character this young boy whose father is not really, he's really not there for him. And then L'Enfant, we have these two young lovers in this situation with this child. And so you have these lower class sort of outsiders of society, and ultimately people who, don't really have a lot of humility, man. They're not afraid to kind of go out there and really put themselves out there for better or for worse, In 2 Days, One Night, that's a whole film that's about this one character played by Marion Cotillard, who through a series of circumstances really only has one weekend to get her coworkers there's a conundrum in the film where if she is fired, then all of the other characters who work there will get a bonus. But if she stays on, they will not get the bonus. She has to go to all of her workers' houses and plead with them to keep her job. She has a boyfriend, or it was a boyfriend or it was a husband. She has I believe, a child as well. I do apologize if I am misremembering that. But it's following this character through this weekend, having to really beg and put themselves out there, and ultimately the circumstances that will put her in, because now you have a conundrum in and of itself, because, okay, let's say she doesn't get the job back. Well, she's out of a job, she has to take care of herself. Okay, well, she does get the job. Well, then you go back to work knowing that everyone sacrificed the bonus for you. What kind of situation does that put you in? And what I like about all three of these films is that with the ending of these films, they're not necessarily ambiguous, but there is that spark that's there that does leave you kind of... I don't want to say ambiguous, because ambiguous kind of implies a certain level of mystery, and I suppose that is there, but for these characters at the end of the film, I would say they leave more optimistically than pessimistically, because, these characters are going through life just beating them down, these really gnarly circumstances that they found themselves in, and it'd be easy to kind of just revel in that and follow these characters who are constantly in these bad situations, and that ultimately can work as well, if it's not a film that's just all that. I mean, look at some of the work of like Ken Loach. I think he's really excellent at showing us characters, perhaps lower class, so to speak, characters, but how they are dealt the cards that they are dealt, I should say. I didn't phrase it the best, but you know what I mean. Going all the way back to something like Kes, or even something far more contemporary, like Sorry We Missed You from 2018, which was a really excellent film following this father and his troubled relationship with his son and his family as he gets a new job as a FedEx. I think it was like a FedEx worker or some sort of like shipper, or driving around like that. But it's great. Even a recent film like The Old Oak examines this community, which is actually, I think that might be on part of the Kino sale right now. That's currently going on at the time we're recording this. So if you are interested in that, keep an eye on that, because that's supposedly is going to be his final film, and I wouldn't be surprised. He's been making films for decades now, and he has proven himself to be just one of the great filmmakers of our time. But now I'm getting off on a tangent there, and actually, what the hell was that film I just watched of Ken Loach? It doesn't matter, I'm not even going to try to find it. But either way, what I was going back to before, actually I'm on the page now, so I might as well just try to find it here. Really, Explore Cow from 1967. And then actually its follow-up would be Kes from 1969. So that's really cool, man. Oh, gosh, man, this coffee's definitely gotten cold. Good Lord, man. Oh, God, that's bitter. Oh my gosh, man. Wow. But these films are... I was talking about before, sorry. These films feel not quite observational, or, you know, certain films you see that are trying to go for a real kind of gritty realism. They feel very real, feel very honest, and this film has that as well. But it still feels cinematic in a way where it'd be interesting to kind of see another filmmaker, maybe even like Gus Van Sant or someone of the like, doing something like this. Now, granted, this is, I think, far more of a... While it is a character-driven film, I do think that this is a bit more of a plot-driven film than something like a Gus Van Sant film, specifically when he was doing the films like Elephant or Last Days, where you are just following these characters, or Paranoid Park. But it'd be interesting to see it in that hands. But it's funny, I bring this film up because, I mean, this wins the Palme d'Or in 2005, and I don't hear anyone really talk about it. And it's just funny how I think even with films that win Best Picture in America, those generally still remain in the general kind of conscience. But whether or not a film kind of breaks out overseas from the Cannes Film Festival, oftentimes... remains to be seen, whether or not it actually does have that kind of crossover, because even, you'll get some films of recent kind of work like Anatomy of a Fall or Parasite, which do gain that kind of international acclaim and end up getting awards and accolades, but then you have others of recent memory like Titane, or like this. I mean, this is going a bit further back, this is 2005, but this film more so that don't really kind of get the attention. I mean, Titane gets American distribution and gets discussion, but not quite the acclaim that unless you're looking out for that to reach a kind of mainstream sort of acknowledgement, or even if somebody in the mainstream is not fully aware of perhaps these international films, these films like Parasite or Anatomy of a Fall end up becoming part of the general kind of conscience, that it has that breakthrough effect that people who don't normally watch these can still find themselves watching these films. But I don't think this has a Blu-ray at all. I watched this on a DVD. So I think as well, accessibility is oftentimes a bit of a tricky kind of issue, because I do think that to a certain extent that if a film is not readily accessible, it can be trickier to recommend to people, because it's often are you willing to kind of go out there and put in the effort to find a film that's not readily available? And some people are, and some people aren't. If it's not streaming or it's not accessible on some website, then it's sort of like, and there's so many films, man. It's like you can't even entirely blame them, because ultimately you are taking a gamble on a film that you are going to be searching all the time for. But then there are times like those Vittorio De Sica films that, I had to buy bootlegs of. I just could not find. I wasn't able to watch anywhere. I mean, one of them I did find, but none of them with English subtitles. So I had to go out and I had to find a bootleg of it. I couldn't even find a DVD of one of them, which is even trickier. So, a film like this, I would hope that would get some more attention in the general kind of film conscious. I don't know anyone who has talked about this film, and especially with even some of the recent work from these two filmmakers of Jean-Pierre Dardenne, or is it Dardenne, and Luc Dardenne, whatever. You figure that these films would be brought back up in the general kind of talk, especially when their films get this kind of acclaim. I remember 2 Days, One Night getting some critical acclaim in America. I think Marion Cotillard was actually nominated for an Oscar for that. But either way, it's ultimately subjective. These films kind of come up, and whether or not you go, I just saw this new film, what else have they done, or vice versa. It all kind of circles together. So Tori and Lakita, I may pick up during the sale. It's funny, I keep buying these Yanos Contemporary Blu-rays, and I don't watch them. I think just owning them is nice, because I've bought a couple of them so far. I've bought EO, I've bought The Innocent, I've bought A Fire, and I think that might be it. I think it might be just those three that I've bought, because I'm trying to think what else they put out. They put out... Oh, I think Shada, or I'm sorry, I think Totem is getting a Yanos Contemporary Blu-ray, so I want to pick that up. Because even if I'm not going to be rewatching these anytime soon, all three of the films I listed I think are brilliant films, but they're not ones I'm going to revisit unless for some sort of contextual reason. But I think it's the idea of knowing that I have them and I'm not concerned with anything that happens. I think that's part of the ownership that comes into it, is that there's no worry, there's no pressure that comes on of where can I watch this film, where is it streaming, or all that. And some people disagree and they say, well, you're buying a lot of stuff and it's taking up space and all that, and that's their right, that's their prerogative. Ultimately, I have the mindset of owning any kind of media. I primarily just buy films. I buy books. I don't buy music albums, and I don't. But people who do, they amass giant collections that are a testament to them. There's that one line of One Fine Morning that I always kind of stuck with me. I'm not even gonna try to remember the line verbatim, but it's when Leah Seydoux' character is she's at her father's house, who has gotten very ill and is becoming slowly blind and is having some dementia. And she talks about how she feels closer to his books than she does to him, because the books are a representation of who he is. And I find that so powerful, man. And I think that in a lot of ways, for anyone collecting any kind of whatever it might be, whether it be Blu-rays or DVDs or VHS, or even if it's not film, like records, or maybe you collect baseball cards or stamps or anything of the sort, I think ultimately it becomes a representation of you. So, when it is our time to kind of go, somebody can look at what we've left behind and have an idea of the kind of person, the kind of media that we consume, that we liked, And when I say media, I don't specifically mean, films or music or anything like that. I mean, like anything. If somebody collects, I don't know, Garfield plushies, or they collect Ninja Turtle, toys or anything like that, that's ultimately a representation of them, and sort of by having this physical kind of thing to leave behind, it is a strong kind of totem of that person that I find very endearing and that I find very touching. Because ultimately when I pass, man, it's sort of like people have asked, well, what's going to happen to your collection? I said the same thing. I said, brother, do whatever you want to. You want to keep it, you want to throw them away, you want to sell them, you want to donate them. It's not going to matter to me, man. Yeah, I'm not going to be here. I can't take them with me to the next life. If there is one, I can't take them with me to the grave. Wherever I'm going next, man, I can't take them with me. It's like people, being very stingy with their money, and that's their right. That's their money. They can do whatever they want with it. But ultimately, I'm of the mindset of enjoying ourselves in the time that we're here, man. So I don't think twice about a lot of that stuff. If it's just we're anything can happen at any time, man. So you got to be cool to others. You got to be cool to yourself. You got to just enjoy the time that we're here, and that means making the most of every day of working on your artistic endeavors, working on your screenplays, your books, enjoying the media that you consume, buying, films, buying records, buying books. These are the things that, if they mean a lot to you, then you should revel in it. Now, obviously, if you're enjoying, crack or, black tar heroin, I'd say maybe don't do that. It's not good for you, man. But I digress. But anyways, time is not on my side for this one, so I'm going to wrap this one up. It's the sun. You know what? When I started recording this, it was cloudy as all hell, and I feel like we've just stepped through the other side. The sun is smiling down. I wonder if the birds are chirping, man. I can't hear them over the fan, but I'm sure they're out there somewhere talking about, X, Y, or Z. But it's a wonderful day. It's a wonderful rest of the day, man. Use it to your advantage. This is your life, man. You gotta totally be at the forefront of it. Say no to anything you don't want to do, any needless socialization. Surround yourself with people whom you feel will enrich your life and will actually lead you on to the path that you want to be on, man. If you're hanging around Joe Schmo and you're not enjoying the company, then it's time for Joe Schmo to go, man. And that's all it is, man. It's our own lives. We gotta really make the most of it. But that's all I got, guys. Thank you so much. Oh, I also wanted to say, man, I've been seeing, I'll say it again next time, but I've been seeing, a lot of, people really are digging the Peephole Pictures episodes, and that's wonderful, man. So thank you to everybody who's been checking out those, man. That's just real cool, man. But anyways, that's all I got. So all the best, man. Hey, you guys take care, all right?